Thank you for joining us at Community on Demand. Today's message is presented by Dan Greer. Dan holds a doctorate from Grace School of Theology and is the senior pastor here at Community Church. This message was recorded during a live Sunday morning service at Community. Let's listen in as Dan begins.
This past week, we witnessed history made on two occasions. Last Saturday evening, as we were, a week ago Saturday, as we're getting ready for bed, all of a sudden we learned of an attack by Iran. Now, Iran is ancient Persia. That's actually who we're studying here in the book of Nehemiah. And history was made. This is a historical moment as for the first time in history, Iran attacked Israel, launching somewhere around 300 missiles into their land. Thank the Lord that the United States and Jordan and some others were there to help protect them. You know, Ezekiel chapter 38 teaches us that in the near future there will be an Iranian-Russian invasion of Israel. When that happens, God himself will come and destroy the military of Iran, Russia, the Ukraine, and Turkey in a supernatural earthquake and destruction of those military countries. I personally believe that will occur about halfway into the tribulation period, about 3.5 years into the tribulation period, after the Antichrist has come in and made peace, and all those things happen. We just saw a week ago everything set in motion. People are talking about World War III. Folks, the show is on. Second thing that happened that went down in history, history was made this last week as the first criminal trial of a U.S. president began. Whether you are a Trump fan or not, it really doesn't matter. What we are witnessing today is a horrible miscarriage of justice being carried out in our justice system. This is, I say that for three reasons. Let me give them to you. Number one, the statutes of limitation has run out in the alleged crime. The star witness was actually convicted of the crime that the former president is being tried for. And he's been given, they've let it, in exchange for his testimony, they've let him out of prison. He's convicted to go to prison. Now he's out so he can testify. And the judge, in this particular case, the judge over this has issued a gag order and a mandatory attendance of the former president so that he can't get out and campaign. Folks, we are seeing things we have never seen before. As we come down to the end of the age and witness Bible prophecy unfolding before our eyes across in the Middle East, we're also witnessing a destruction of our own justice system, a dismantling of our election process, a decay of our moral values by power-hungry, money-grabbing, corrupt individuals who are in strategic places of authority and with the idea of beating down, breaking down, and burning down those things that we hold dear. Folks, that's where we are today. I don't know about you. But as I see prophecy unfold, and I see corrupt individuals and authority from the presidency all the way down to our local district attorneys, I don't know about you, but I get discouraged. I get disheartened. I get to thinking, well, is anything going to change? What do we do? Do we just stop? Do we just quit and go and stand on a hill and say, hurry, Lord, hurry. We can't hold on very much longer. Is that what we do? When I get discouraged and when I get down, I realize and I know that my job is to trust God, be a leader, cast vision, and stay on mission. That's where we are as we come down to the end of the age. I know, and I've experienced, that when people respond by embracing values, catching the vision, joining the mission, we can overcome whatever or whoever tries to beat down, break down, burn down what God is trying to do in our country, in the world, in our community, and in our church. I think many of us feel defeated, discouraged. We think about this past week, this historic infamy that has taken place, and it's discouraging to us. And we see the damage, we worry about the future, and we don't see a way out. We just want to bury our heads in the ground and hope it all goes away. You know, in Nehemiah's day, where we're studying, Israel had been utterly destroyed because of moral decay, because of corrupt leadership and idolatry. They literally, folks, if you'll go through and read Ezekiel and some of the prophetic books there, they literally worship false gods like Baal and Ashtaroth, while at the same time they were worshiping God. They could stand in a service and say, "Holy, holy, holy," and then they walk right out and worship Baal and worship Ashtaroth. You say, what is Baal and Ashtaroth? Baal was the god of prosperity and money and property, and if you just worshiped Baal and committed a little bit of infanticide, you were promised prosperity. They worshipped money. And Ashtaroth was the goddess of sexual immorality. If you just indulge in that, and that was what was going on, and it completely devastated their land, and the land is in ruin when Nehemiah comes on the scene. As a result of moral decay, corrupt leaders, injustice, Jerusalem lay in ruin. Nehemiah was a visionary who inspired Israel to rise out of the ashes of defeat, to restore what had been beat down, broken down, and burned down. And as Nehemiah arrives in Jerusalem, and we get in the middle of chapter 2, we will find three types of people that meet him as we study this passage of Scripture. We will find that there are those who cast vision, there are those who catch vision, and there are those who want to kill vision. And so let's go to Nehemiah chapter 2, verse number 10, and begin reading there, because here we find there are vision casters. In Nehemiah 2, it says, "So I came to Jerusalem." This is the narrative by Nehemiah. "So I came to Jerusalem, and I was there for 3 days. Then I arose in the night, I and a few men with me. I told no one what my God had put on my heart to do at Jerusalem. Nor was there any animal with me except the one on which I rode. And I went out by night through the valley gate, to the serpent well, to the refuge gate, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and the gates which were burned with fire." Immediately upon arriving in Jerusalem, Nehemiah and his entourage of trusted friends around him do a survey of the broken down walls and the burned down gates of justice. Remember, we talked about this last week. The gates represented justice, economy, and the messianic hope of the future. And as he sees these burned down gates and he's thinking about this, it's much worse than he could have ever imagined. Let's continue reading. Then I went on to the fountain gate and the king's pool, but there was no room for the animal under me to pass. So I went up in the night to the valley, and I viewed the wall. Then I turned back and entered the valley gate, and so returned, and the officials did not know where I had gone or what I had done. I had not told the Jews, nor the priests, nor the nobles, nor the officials, nor the others who did the work. it's really interesting that Nehemiah does this survey at night in secret with very few people. A few trusted colleagues who would follow him as he began to develop a strategy to rebuild the walls and the gates. Let's continue reading. Then I said to them, you see the distress that we are in? How Jerusalem lies in waste and the gates are burned with fire? Come, let us rise and build the wall of Jerusalem. Can you see the excitement there? As he tries to rally the people that we may no longer be a reproach. Once Nehemiah envisions the dream. Remember we talked about this last week? He's in Persia. He's looking outside. He sees the kids playing in the street. He sees the walls and beauty and everything. He thinks about how devastated Jerusalem, and he has a dream. He wants the children of Israel to be playing in the streets. He wants the walls to be built. He wants the houses to be built. And as he sees the dream and he looks at the damage, he's got to grip himself. He's got to stand up, and he has got to encourage the people and cast the vision. We can do this. We can do this. He's going to accomplish his mission of restoring what's been broken down. He counts the cost, and he goes and casts the vision. Come on, folks. We can do this. There will always be vision casters that will encourage and help as we look at the wasteland that is around us, where we can see the vision and accomplish it. But he also finds here there are vision catchers. Look at verse 18. And he told them of the hand of my God, which had been good upon me, and also of the king's word that he had spoken to me. So they said, let's build the wall. Let's rise up and build the wall. Then they set their hands to do the good work. Not only does Nehemiah cast the vision, he testifies. He testifies of how God has affirmed the vision by supplying him with things as he's thinking about it. He's been supplied with the permits. He's been supplied with the building materials. He's been supplied with a security team from the king of Persia. He's been supplied with the order to go and do this great work. And he said, look how God has blessed me. He wants to bless you. Let's move forward. And they get it. They catch the vision. They get excited. They rise up. Yes, let's build the wall. They're excited. Let's rise up and build. They're vision casters. There are vision catchers. Sadly, there are vision killers. Look in verse number 19. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite official, and Geshem the Arab, or Arab, how do you say that? I know how Billy says it. He says Arab, okay? They laughed at us. They despised us and said, what is this thing you're doing? Will you rebel against the king? While Nehemiah is casting the vision, while the people are catching the vision, this unholy trinity is trying to kill the vision. And I love what Nehemiah does. Now, he's going to lose it later on in the story. You're going to see that. But right now, he's spiritual, okay? Right now, and so what he does, he exposes two techniques that they use to try to kill the vision. Here they are. Number one, they will use ridicule. It says they laughed at us. I like to look words up in the Hebrew. I like to see just exact. They have those Hebrew words and Greek words. They have a lot more depth than our words. And so I looked with this one up. It's la'ag. It means to stammer, to scorn, to mock, to deride, to speak to someone with contempt, to show a low opinion of someone or something. So they ridiculed Nehemiah. And then they use ridicule. Then they use repugnance. They says they despised us. There's another one of those Hebrew words, bazah. It means to feel contempt or repugnance towards someone. Do you see what they do here? They actually attacked his character by accusing him of insurrection. You are rebelling against the king. He wasn't rebelling against the king, but they attacked his character by accusing him of it. Does it sound familiar? You see that happening around? Here's the thing. In 444 BC, as history is being made, you remember last week? Nehemiah, he just got a heart to build the wall. He just sees the vision to build the wall. But over in Daniel chapter 9 and verse number 25, Daniel, 150 years earlier, casts this prophecy that said when the order goes out to rebuild the walls in the city of Jerusalem, start counting, because 483 years from that day, the Messiah will walk into Jerusalem with the people crying, Hosanna, Hosanna on Palm Sunday. And when you go and look at it, that's exactly when it happened. Dr. Rich Bustrud and Dr. Anderson both have preached sermons calculating that out from this pulpit. History was being made. And while history was being made, while things were unfolding like they are in the Middle East, like they are in the country here, there were those that were casting vision, there were those that were catching vision, and there were those that were trying to kill vision. It happens all the time. Folks, life is hard. I've been preaching this for 50 years. Sometimes I feel like Jeremiah. Jeremiah was preaching, the Babylonians are coming, the Babylonians are coming, the Babylonians are coming. They said, shut up, Jeremiah, get over in the well there and quit. And he gets down in the well and he says, I just think I'm going to quit. I'm done. They won't listen to me. I'm done. So he stopped preaching. And he said, but then the word of God, like a fire, began to roll in my soul. And I couldn't help it. I had to get out and preach it some more. And he did until he was dead. Life is hard. Many of us today feel beat down, broken down, burnt out. We're tired. We feel so distressed. We just feel like Jeremiah. We feel like quitting and giving up. Then a leader shows up, like Nehemiah, casting the vision, correcting the vision killers. And what Nehemiah does in the next few verses, he shows us 3 ways to address vision killers. Let me show you those 3 ways. Number 1, we need to take this on. Number 1, we must attest that God will bless. Let me say that again. We must attest that God will bless. Look at verse number 20. So I answered them, who? Tobiah, Sanballat, Geshem. I answered them and said to them, the God of heaven himself will prosper us. And I think he said it just like that. Over and over again, Nehemiah received confirmation that God has blessed him, providing him with all kinds of things. I mean, he was just sitting there thinking about it for 4 months, praying about it when the king of Persia said, okay, what's wrong? Is there poison in my wine? What's wrong? And he said, no, I just am worried about building the walls of the city. And he said, okay, what do you need? Some time off. Okay, you got it. What else? Oh, I need some permits. What else? Well, I need some building materials. What else? Can you provide a security guard? and he sees it that just God's blessings open up and pour out to him. And he says, God has blessed and God will bless. I can attest over the last 24 months, as we have taken on this gargantuan task, this vision of trying to build a facility that God has blessed and God will continue to bless. I remember one occasion that we were finishing up, and the Woodlands Corporation, which is very, very strict, by the way. Did anybody realize how strict they are? They said, you will put some enclosures around your dumpster and your air conditioners. We just think they're all ugly and y'all need to put some, and here's how you're going to do it. So we sent out bids, and the bids came back $18,000. And I thought, $18,000? I don't see it. And then one of our men come along, and I don't have permission to tell you that it was Mark Elliott, okay? Mark comes along. He does a material takeoff. He says, wait a minute. We can do that for about $3,100. Do it. He was wrong. They actually, when we counted all the costs, it was $100 less than that. It was $3,000. $15,000 saving because someone caught the vision and said, we can do this. And God blessed incredibly. I think God blessing nearly every day. God has blessed. God will bless. You know, we had our business meeting last Sunday after church, and there were several people that were just afraid, we're not going to make the budget. Did you guys look at your bulletin this morning? Do you see that even right now we're $20,000 over on our income? God blessed in the past. God will bless in the future. That's what faith is. God will bless. God has blessed. God will bless. And that's what he said to them. When some are casting vision, some are catching vision, some killing vision, God is blessing. God will bless. Number two, we must affirm that we will build. And 20b, it says, therefore we, his servants, will arise and build. Now, this is a confirmation, an affirmation from after the people caught the vision. This is what Nehemiah is telling them. We will build. Last week in the sermon, I said that part of our vision and strategy was to provide a spacious facility on a beautiful campus. And look around. It did it. I mean, I drive around on this campus sometime and cry at what God has done. I can't believe it. I walk down the hallway. I look out at that playground. I say, I want to go out there and slide on that slide, you know. And if the cameras are off, I might do it, you know. You know. I mean, it's amazing what he's done, but that's not the end of it. There's so much more to do. In fact, as people are catching vision, last Wednesday night, 6:30, I'm in there praying. Rich is leading a prayer meeting. We're praying. We finish up. We pray for people that are really hurting, and I get my stuff and I start packing up. I start walking out down the hallway, and all of a sudden, I nearly get run down by some teenagers and some workers who are running in here with boxes of food. I wanted to follow them. I was getting a little hungry as they were doing that, you know. And then I walk out on the parking lot, and I look over, and there are a group of other teenagers that they're playing some game. They've got something out there, and they're playing games. I think, well, that's good. And then cars start pulling up, and other teenagers start walking in. I would guess that somewhere between 50 to 60 to 70 teenagers are here on Wednesday nights catching the vision, drawing other teenagers. I looked over, and the van was missing. Now, there's a story behind that, okay? Someone off campus had a tractor and backed into our van and busted out the headlights and did some damage. And so I looked out, and the van was gone, and then my phone buzzed, and I looked at my message on the phone, and it says, I've got the van replacing the headlight on the van. And I won't I don't have the permission to say that was Jose Mendez that was taking care of all of that. People are catching the vision. They're affirming that we will build. And some of you have caught that vision, and you didn't need someone to tell you what to do. Some of you have jumped in, and you've begun to accomplish the catching and the administration and the moving of what God is trying to do here. We must attest that God will bless. We must affirm that God will build. We must accept that some will blame. But you, he's talking to Sanballat and Tobiah, and Geshem. But you have no heritage, no right, no memorial in Jerusalem. Nehemiah is addressing the vision killers, Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. We were introduced to them last week, and he proclaims 4 no's to them. Let me give them to you. Number 1 is no heritage. He's saying you will have no share, no possession, no portion, no territory, nothing, zip, nothing. Then he says you'll have no right. You look that up. No vindication, no justice, no merit, no part in the governance or authority in the country. No memorial, no resignation. As you look it up, no recognition, no memorial, no part of the citizenship. The very reason that these 3 men were causing Nehemiah trouble is because they craved money, property, authority, and recognition. They will go down in infamy in the book of Nehemiah. Their names recorded in the eternal Word of God as naysayers. You can't do it, push that back. As we try to cast vision, catch vision, or kill the vision, we must understand that God will bless, we will build, and some will blame. I like classical music. Does anybody here like classical music? 1, 2. I'm sorry for the rest of you guys. I really love it. Does anybody know any Pachelbel? Dun, 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 dun. You know, Wedding March, you know, Pachelbel? Yeah, I know it. Quit it, Pastor. Well, wait a minute. How about Vivaldi? Dun, 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 dun. The dun is the only note that I know, okay? So you're going to have to live with it. How about Beethoven? Dun, 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 dun. You know that one, okay? How about Salieri? Antonio Salieri. I can't remember any of his stuff. However, this guy, he was amazing. He was the director of the Italian opera. He wrote operas in 3 languages. And some of his students included Beethoven and Mozart. He was amazing during the classical era. You say, I still don't remember him. Let me help your memory just a little bit. In 1984, there was a movie that came out called Amadeus. Amadeus Mozart. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And Salieri was his mentor and his teacher, but he couldn't control him, and he got very frustrated because of the adolescent behavior of Mozart. You know, Mozart was probably, he died when he was 35, and honestly, the guy was a genius. He wrote about 800 operas, but he was like a little kid in an adult body. I mean, it was horrible. But Salieri couldn't take it, and he struggled, and he couldn't control his immature behavior, so he began undermining him and subverting his forward progress. Even though he was accomplished in the field, nobody knows who Salieri is. He lost his recognition, his merit, his share of the glory among the greats of classical music, even though he was great. In fact, his name is well known in the psychological field, and it's called the Salieri syndrome. Go look it up. As we come down to the end of the age, history's being made. I expect the rapture any moment. I expect to be standing before the Lord at the Bema Seat Judgment. And as I look way up front, Jose, how did you get way up there? Walter, Mark, hey, I don't know, you know. Finally, I get up there, and after a long time, and the Lord looks at me and he shakes his head and he says, well, Dan, here's a celestial broom and a celestial dustpan. These guys that caught the vision and moved in there, they're going to have a lot of gold dust in their house, tracking it in from those streets of gold. So why don't you just go in there, and we're going to let you sweep the floor for them, and and you can do whatever you want to with the gold dust. Gold dust, pavement, you know. As we come down to the end of the age, prophecy is unfolding with Israel, Persia, Russia in the news. Injustice is the new law of the land in the United States. It won't be long before we're standing before the Lord to give an account of our time here on earth. We have a vision before us. A vision to win the lost at any cost. We have a mission to draw men, women, boys, and girls to Christ, equipping them to reach others. We come down to the end of the age. I've got 3 questions I want to ask myself. You may not want to ask yourself. Here's the 3 questions. Am I a vision caster? Am I a vision catcher? Am I a vision killer? I think we need to ask that question to ourselves. And join the mission. Catch the vision. Let's see what God can do when we unify ourselves.
On behalf of Pastor Dan and the folks at Community, thank you for joining us today at Community on Demand. Feel free to share this link with others, and please know you are always welcome to be our guest during a live service any Sunday morning at our campus in The Woodlands, Texas. For more information, just click on the link, www.cbcwoodlands.org. I hope you will again join us at Community on Demand.